All right, welcome to week 10. This week we are investigating the tools of the trade, as Martin refers to it. He's talking about the tactics terrorists employ and the targets they select. Martin starts the chapter with a description of a Hamas bomber named Yahya Ayash, who earned the nickname the Engineer. Ayash had two traits that were very invaluable to Hamas. He was a religious fundamentalist. He was intensely pious. And he was an electrical engineer, and he could use his education to become one of the most deadly bomb makers in that period in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. How Israel responded to Hamas's bombing campaign is also instructive. They figured out who bombers like Ayash were, and then they would compromise a relative. In this case, it was Ayash's uncle, who they used to pass along a cell phone to Ayash that was packed with a shaped explosive charge that set to blow the face off of whoever was operating it. Ayash called his father at 8 a.m. On January 5th, 1996, and Shin Bet agents detonated the phone, blowing the right side of his face off, while leaving the rest of his face pretty much whole. It tells you how precise it was. So if you don't know who Shin Bet is, they are Israel's internal security service, and their motto is Magin Velo Yair, which is the unseen shield. They don't mess around. This week's chapter is composed of 4 parts. First, Martin makes a good point. Terrorism is rarely senseless and it's rarely random. In terms of political causes, dissident terrorist groups have a number of potential objectives ranging from comprehensive alteration of the political order to mere social disruption. Second, terrorists adopt a range of methods to execute terrorist attacks. Martin makes an important distinction between old and new weapons. The types of weapons used, again, depend on the nature of the tactics being employed, and of course, they range from guns used in raids and assassinations to bombs, when they're trying to inflict mass casualties in attacks, to tactics such as kidnapping and hijackings. Some tactics employed by some groups are fairly exotic, such as kneecapping, which is something that was done quite a bit by the Irish Republican Army and Protestant Ulster loyalists, as well as the Italian IRA. The third section details the targets of terrorist attacks. Quite frequently, terrorists select targets for their symbolic value. Diplomatic embassies, symbolic buildings like the World Trade Center, symbolic individuals like Patty Hearst, who was kidnapped by the Symbionese Liberation Army in 1974. Symbolism, oftentimes plays a powerful role in terrorist events. The final section of the text asks the question, is terrorism effective? We need to think about how we answer that question carefully, because unfortunately at some deep level, terrorism in certain circumstances can be devastatingly effective, depending on what kind of goals you're actually pursuing. Gus Martin's citation of Irgun's bombing of the King David Hotel in 1947 is almost, it almost certainly worked because it drove the British out of Israel. But we have to be careful about understanding that as they won, because those kinds of things have long-standing effects. And Israel's relationship with the United Kingdom, especially with their intelligence services, is deeply embittered to this day as a result. So we should always keep in mind that kind of violence you don't get to undo, and you don't get, no amount of money is likely to erase those things. This week, in addition to the weekly quiz and the forum, we have a second unit examination covering the material from chapters 6 through 10. Be sure to take the week 10 quiz prior to the unit examination, as chapter 10 is included on the exam. All right, let's have a great week.